What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of What Words Are Worth. And today, I got your favorite rapper's favorite engineer to make sure that if you want your sound to sound right for your album, this is the guy to get. Vodka Gravas, he's done worked with so many people from Tiana Taylor to Rakim. He's just been all over the map working with people like Chino XL. Anything that's from underground to commercial, if you wanted to sound the right way, this is the guy to go get. He also mixed my album, The Fragility of Life. And we got some songs together. You might have heard him on like Bel Air, stuff like that. This guy's a special dude. He's kind of like the secret engineer, like that dude that people are working with. They'll tell you about it, but you gotta know to know. And today you're gonna get to learn more about him. All right, Vodka Gravas, let's get it.
Yo, what up? Thank you for having me.
Yo, what's happening, man? How you been?
I've been good, man. I've just been staying
Good.
busy. I had a baby about a year ago. Her birthday's next week, actually. So,
Wow, fast. Time went by fast.
so fast. Yeah, on the 12th. So, uh, just been enjoying fatherhood and working on music, man. That's literally it.
Congratulations on the baby. Even though I know you sent me pics here and there, but still, it's gone by so fast that I didn't realize it's about to be a year. That's what's so
Right.
crazy about it, man.
So fast. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted
How old
to
are you?
shout you out for sending me this hat too.
Oh man, the hat looks crazy. I was gonna tell you that when we linked before, but yeah, that looks amazing. Fire.
Yeah. Shout out, sending me this hat. And then, at the end, tell them where they could get all the hats and everything that you got
Okay.
going on. So
Absolutely. I will.
let me give my take of you. I like the people that come on here. I like to tell people how I know you, met you, or whatever the case may be,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Um, so first of all, he's mixed my album, Fragility of Life. He's man, he's a phenomenal engineer. I want to give you that respect because
Man,
I
thank you.
did. He had sent me some beats one day, and I had the beats there, and then I picked one of the beats. I rhyme on the beat. I send it back. I get the mix back in like maybe like an hour or something like that. Yo, the mix was one of the best mixes I heard in just in my years of doing some music. I was like, yo, let me see what's up with this guy mixing my project. Yo,
Yeah,
and I hadn't really realized how many projects you've been a part of as far as artists and stuff like that.
yeah.
And I didn't know how well your expertise was in mixing until like, you don't really kind of know until you get to hear. You gotta
Right,
hear it.
right, right.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
But
a lot of people will tell me like, "Oh, I can't wait to hear your music," and it's like, man, like you probably have, you just don't realize it.
exactly. And that shows to the quality of how come I was blown away to have you, the honor of you mixing my project. But
Right.
tell them another story of when we met earlier than that.
That's what I was gonna
You,
say. As you said,
you,
that's how
you
we
put
met.
me onto that story that I hadn't realized.
Yeah. So the year was 2004. I want to say. Does that sound right?
2004, probably. I probably.
Yeah, I think I was a freshman in high school, and so I started off in music as like a battle rapper. Like the first time I ever performed any kind of rap in front of anybody was freestyle battling. So I went and did this competition at back in Tucson, where I'm from. It was at a place called Scrappy's, and they had like the preliminary rounds. So I was 14 at the time. I went and battled like this grown man. It was and then they
Yeah,
said they were gonna announce the whoever made it onto the main show. So it was like just the rappers at the beginning. The main
yeah.
show was everybody, and so my dad took me to the main show to see if I made the cut, and that's
Wow.
when they announced, because I just knew it was an MC battle. I didn't know there was a headliner and Wordsworth was going to be there, and so when they said that, I was like, "Yo, that's crazy," because I'd been bumping mirror music like crazy, and so I went to the merch table and I bought People Without Turntables, like volume 2 and 3 or something like that. And at the end of and so you went and performed and you killed it, right? And I
Right.
remember there's this part in one of your raps where you say, "And I'm gonna stay at the top because heat rises," right? And you jumped in the crowd, you was performing, and you were doing, and when you said that bar, you dapped me up, and I said the bar with you, and you were like, ah. And then you went back on stage and you kept rhyming. So at the end of the show, I'm with my pops, and he's like, "Yo, you should have him sign your stuff." And I was like, oh no, he's up on the stage. Like I don't want to bother him, you know. And my dad screams, "Yo, Wordsworth!" And you look, and he's like, "Yo, come sign this for my boy." And you're like, "Yeah." And you came on down, and you signed it, and it was before camera phones, so we didn't have a picture or nothing. But you know, I still have those CDs to this day, man. Like almost 20 years later.
Yeah, it's so crazy, man, because I could have been a jerk and then now my album would be mixed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like my album would be sounding fire because I would have been a jerk right there. So that goes to say that artists out there, people that come to the shows or buy merch or support you, you never know. It's just a full circle. You might bump into them anytime, any day. So just treat
Yeah.
people right because look at that now. We work together. And we've done a lot more than that. For people that don't know, we also done some sync licensing stuff. You want to tell people about that?
Yeah, we did a record for the Bel Air show, the Fresh Prince reboot.
Yeah, it was dope, man. And it's called We Winning.
Yeah.
And this is what gets into where we are with the show and why I wanted to have you on here. Is just like letting people know about you, the process, and all the things you've done and things that we've done together, which I think people should know about. So when it's coming down to it, right? So we did the We Winning record, and
Right.
he's a producer. He's also a producer, dope producer, and rapper, all of that. So this is my first question: is just so what happens first when you're making that beat? Do you have the concept before you make the beat, or do you have some lyrics? What's your order of process with that?
Oh man, for the most part, it's I make the beat depending on how I'm feeling that day, and you know sometimes you might get like a happy beat, you might get some hard where you feeling like oh like I'm the man right now,
Right.
and you know an emotional beat, whatever it is, and then I'll come back and write to it later. Um, there's been a few exceptions to that. There was one we did a joint, the sneakerhead joint. You were
Right.
like, "Yo, we should do a record about about having like sneaks," and I think that'll go, and so like that kind of stuff. Like I was like, "Oh, that reminds me of like some blog era type vibes," and that's kind of where I went with. I don't know if that makes sense for that record.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I was thinking of like some like Pac Divish, some currency, something like that. So I definitely will cook up around a concept, but usually for me, like if I'm gonna be making something, it's the beat first, and then the beat usually will lend to the concept, and then the concept is the lyrics.
Do you have like lyrics laying around? Because coming up with the battling, especially you're aware of battling,
Yeah.
you used to almost have to have like rhymes like to go. Like you never know who you were gonna bump into. You might just need to have a verse or two. Do you have like rhymes that were lingering around, or is everything like freshly made to whatever the beat is?
Man, back in the day when I was like actively battling and like freestyling a lot and stuff, I had like a whole bunch of like 2 minute verses that could just fly at any minute. You know what I mean? That
Yeah,
just were ready to go at the drop of a dime. Right now, the most I'll do if I'm not like sitting there to create a record, um, and like I'm just like thinking of stuff. Sometimes I'll just think of like some crazy rhymes. Like I'll be like, oh, this rhymes with that, and I'll just write down the actual like rhyme, and it's usually like 3 4 syllable rhymes that I'm not gonna remember later. So I'll have
yeah.
like in my notes, I'll just have like a bunch of just crazy rhymes that don't really make sense, and then I'll find out a structure for them later on.
And then as you're making the beats, because I've heard you make all different types of styles of beats. You can make any beat. I'd be like, yo, we need a beat like this. You'd be like, all right, cool. You don't say, I don't know about that. I don't know about I don't want to mess with that.
Yeah.
So what's it like to making beats with no samples versus um like looping or things like that, like AI being in the process of making beats now? What
Oh
what is
man.
that like now? Do you enjoy making beats without samples or making beats with samples, effects? What's that process
Um,
about? What do you like?
Man, I love to sample off records. That's like my thing. Like specifically off vinyl, like you get to touch it, and like a lot of these records they'll say like I get them from like the dollar bin. You know what I mean? That's where all the gold is in
Yeah,
the dollar bin, and they'll be like they'll just have like a name. It'll say like Jim on the record. You know what I mean? Like so this was from
right.
Jim's collection that probably been sitting in the basement somewhere since the 70s, or you know what I mean? Like and they got like this feel to them. So I really love to do that. And then, um, but I mean, I'm sure it's the same way with when you write. It like, do you ever feel like the song's already written? You just got to put it together. Does
Yeah,
that
I
make
mean
sense?
the beat, I gotta hear what the beat looks like to me. That's
Right.
what it is for me. It's what does the beat look like more so than what does the beat sound like, I guess. So if I hear
Right.
the beat, then I'm like, okay, that looks like somebody painting a wall. That looks like somebody running down the street. That looks like
Oh.
so that gives me some more of the visual. Now, I've also learned you can kind of go with that on that looks like somebody playing basketball, and then it could be that looks like that sounds sad. So now I got both emotions with it. Now I'm
Oh.
writing a sad song about playing basketball. So
Right. Right. Right.
I learned to kind of figure out how to divide the two when listening to a beat, that there's actually the mood and the tone, and then there's actually the visual that connects it together, and then that's how I kind of could come up with the story. So I'm looking for both. Okay, what's happening, and I'm looking for the sound.
Right. Right. Right.
So
That makes sense.
I divide them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So sometimes with beats, I'll like the other day I was listening to this old, well not old, but this Childish Gambino record, the Kawhi album, and I was like, man, I should try to make something like this because it's just like kind of like poppy and it's just a little bit different than what I'm usually making. And that ended up being like this Timberland esque pop record, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean. They just kind of like you can start with the concept, but usually, but I don't know. I feel like I only have so much control, even when I'm writing rhymes. Like I feel like yeah, I could have the concept, but I think that's as much control as I have over it because what comes out is just like that exists somewhere, and I'm just grabbing it and putting it on the page. But
But then how do you decide your flow? Like, cause I got a whole bunch of songs with you that we've done, but like I'll get a song from you as we're working on something for sync licensing or whatever the case may be.
mhm.
And when you come on rhyming, sometimes you up tempo. Sometimes you just taking your time with it. So what helps you gauge the flow of what you're gonna say? How are you gonna say it?
Oh man, I don't know. That's just that's just how it comes out. I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I only have so much control because it's kind of just something that happens. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like you hear the beat and like this thing just kind of starts putting itself together, and I'm just like delivering it the way it makes sense in my head.
Yeah, because I'll hear how you kind of set it off, and then I'll be like, okay, I got to make a decision. Where am I going with my verse? Maybe I'm going to go slow. Maybe I'm going to copy that same tempo that you're doing. So that often helps me set off the records that we work on and do a lot of times. And then me and you work on stuff, but when you're working on your own stuff and you have the luxury of like not having to be like confined to time, how long does it take you to write?
Oh man. So I work with a dude named Thomas the Wolf, and he's a dope producer and dope engineer and stuff. He helped put me onto a lot of stuff. And he told me that what he does is he makes beats from start to finish every time. So he doesn't have like a lot of like half projects sitting around, like a lot of just started ideas and stuff. Like he's gonna sit there until there's something like to show, even if it's not dope. Like he's just gonna put something that he can like show somebody. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like it's gonna be a finished beat. And so I kind of like took that concept when it comes to songwriting. So um, at least with verses, I'll sit there and I'll write the full verse. And even if it's not like super crazy, or if I think I'm not going to do anything with it, I'll sit there and finish at least the 16 and maybe the hook idea. And then I'll come back to it. So usually it takes like an hour to write a verse. And
Oh, okay.
then sometimes if it's two verses, I'll sit there and write the whole record within those couple hours. And sometimes I'll sit there and spend write the verse and then I'll come back to it the next day and spend another
Yeah.
45 minutes taking parts out and chopping stuff up. With battle rap stuff, I used to write as much as I could until I ran out of ideas. So it'd be 3-4 pages just full of just bars. And then I would take those and put them into rounds. So I'd have the three 90-second rounds, 2-minute rounds or whatever. And then I delete everything else, all the extra stuff,
Yeah.
and then I'd go through and I'd highlight all the stuff that wasn't super crazy, and then I'd work on replacing that or just reworking it till it was crazy. So the battle rap stuff, a 16 bar verse that takes an hour to write is about 45 seconds. So you're writing, almost three times that per round. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that
nah,
stuff takes a long time.
I give battle rappers a lot of respect because remember that material's only being used once.
Yeah.
You got to memorize it, and then that all depends on the minutes because a certain contract might just be 2 minutes and 2 minutes, might be
Hmm.
2:30, 3:30 with a grace period of 30 seconds.
Right.
So knowing that you're getting into these battles and the frequency they may be, how do you memorize? How easy is it for you to memorize?
Man, it's just repetition, just going over and over and over. Um, Even up to like when I'm headed to the venue, like, I've flown to back to Tucson for battles, to Phoenix for battles, New Mexico. We've driven all the way around California, Northern Cali, and whatnot. And
Right.
on the way to the venue, I'm still like, you know what I mean? You'll see dudes outside the venue like trying to make sure they got everything because it's just literally just repetition. Sometimes I'll record it and just listen to the bars over and over. Um, yeah, it's just memorizing over and over and over. That's I don't have like a secret to memorizing long rounds. It's just repetition.
I think people don't realize it's become more theatrical.
Right.
So you're not like so rapping a song on stage. There's some theatrics there. You're doing this and that, but like for the most part, when I started watching battle rap, it started with just bars. Who said
Hmm.
what? Saying it how you say it. But now it's become more like they'll even gauge an artist on this person has performance. This person doesn't have performance. This person has lyrics.
Right.
There's like so many different gauges to it now that I think that people misunderstand how hard it is and how dope it is to come up with these lyrics. I almost feel like for anybody that's out there watching this, it's just I think you need to watch battle rap, and I don't mean everybody, but there's
Right.
certain artists out there. I love a Rum Nitty, I love a Twerk, Ill Will. I mean, there's a lot of artists out there that when they're saying bars, it's some of the best written stuff I've ever heard lyrically.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like the way it's put
Well.
together, it's like some of the craziest bars and that I've heard. And I think if you're not watching battle rap and getting some maybe suggestions from people, just for certain people, I think you're missing out on that wordplay because that wordplay is
Oh my
phenomenal
god. Yeah.
in
Well,
battle
that
rap.
some of the wordplay is so crazy that they'll say like he won in the building, but on camera he won
Right.
because you could sit there and dissect the bars, and sometimes it goes over your head, and then like you go back and watch it and be like, no, that was actually ridiculous. But how you were
Yeah.
talking about the theatrics, what you got to keep in mind too is not only are you writing, 10 minutes worth of bars that but you can only use them once, but you can only perform them the one time. You know what I
Right.
mean? You only get the
That,
one, and if
that's
you
it.
stumble a little bit and that bar is gone forever.
Yeah, it's like doing a live performance at a musical. If you got a certain line, you don't want to mess up your line during the musical,
Right.
right?
Yeah, but
So
see, in the musical, you might have the next day to do it and redeem yourself and get that line out.
true.
The battle,
That's
it's on
true.
camera, it's in front of the crowd. There's no redo, there's no
There's
do
no
over,
redo.
there's no going back. It's you got one shot to perform this perfectly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why dudes like Disaster are crazy because he'll rap for as long as you let him, and he likes the unlimited rounds, man. I like that structure where it's like, let me get these 2 minutes in, let me get these 3 minutes in. I don't need anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I also respect the people that do battle rap that can they can kind of sew it together so they can
Oh yeah.
do the written rhyme, then go into a rebuttal and diss somebody on spot, freestyle, and then go back in their mind, right in the catalog where it is, and continue. I always thought that was dope,
Right.
and
Yeah,
I've
cause
seen that same process with Juice. He's
oh
he's a
yeah.
you know he's able to rhyme on beat on radio. He'll say a written, go into something about what's going on, and come back flawlessly into the written rhyme. And I always
Yeah.
thought that was amazing to do too.
Yeah, those like rebuttals at the beginning of the round are cool. Like they're great, you know what I mean? But if you could work that into a rhyme scheme, and yeah, that's always ridiculous.
So I got another question for you. So with doing the music that you do
Mhm,
all types of music. You've
mhm.
done music for underground artists, commercial artists. You've mixed commercial, all of that. So
Yeah.
where's that like? How do you like maintain your integrity when you're doing music? So the question is maintaining integrity when doing music, your vision, and then also understanding its business.
Right. So this comes from being an engineer. Is my like philosophy, I guess, is I'm gonna get whatever's in your head onto the record before I make any suggestions. You know what I mean? So I'm
Yeah.
gonna help you get out your idea, and once your idea is out, then we could play with it and we could take it up a level, or we can, redirect some things or whatever. So as like I kind of do the same thing as a producer, where it's like, yeah, like if you come in and you want to do something poppy and make like something, that that's not really my cup of tea. I'm gonna let you get your idea out, and we're gonna sit here and work with it. But my thing is always like a challenge of like, how do we make this dope and how do we make this better? Because I've had artists come in here and be like, yeah, I got this song, but I'm not sure about it, and it's not that great. And then by the time they leave, once I get my hands on it and we take it up a little bit, then they want it to be their lead single. Oh, this is going to be the single off the album. This song is crazy. So I kind of just take every song as somewhat of a challenge to make it as dope as it can be. Whether it's doesn't matter the genre, doesn't matter the artist. It's just if it's somebody who's not that great of a rapper, it's like, well, we're gonna find your strengths. If it's just your flow, if it's just your swag on the song, because there's people who they might not have the bars, they might not have the delivery,
Yeah.
but they got that swag in their voice, and it's like, that's what we're gonna use to make this crazy. So I'm gonna find something dope about you, and we're gonna exploit that, and you know what I mean. We're gonna really just play up your strengths,
Was
and
that ever like a internal conflict within yourself? Because I've seen people, man, producers and everything that be like, nah, that's corny, that's terrible. I ain't never doing that. I ain't never mess with that. That's whack. That commercial stuff. And then I heard other side, nah, that's whack. That underground stuff. So what's the internal fight within you to work with artists of all genres, styles, levels, and
yeah.
not feel like that? Like just be like, yo, this is work. This is I'm trying to make something dope. What's you have that internal conflict?
Man, yeah. So I mean, when I started rapping and stuff, I was into only underground, and I was like a real hip hop head. You know what I mean? I was like, we
Yeah.
don't like that commercial stuff. It was all Wu Tang. And keep in mind, I graduated high school in '08, so I'm 2008
Okay.
still playing 36 chambers like it's
Right.
new. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
but when I started engineering, so engineering is what changed everything for me, because it's just it's not so much creative for the. I mean, so when you work at a studio, it's not really creative because you're just the guy that's recording that day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the artist comes in and they're working with you for the day. But when you get picked up by an artist, like if it was just me and you working in the studio every day, like yeah, I'm gonna have some suggestions for you. I'm gonna have ideas. I'm gonna, I'm gonna learn exactly what you like, and so I'll know exactly what to do every time. But just working with so many different artists and just seeing how many different kind of like styles there are, and then you start to pick up on why people like certain things. So there's like Britney Spears isn't that great of a singer, but I know why people like her. You know what I mean? It's the way her music makes you feel about yourself, and it's the dancing behind it and all that stuff. Like you can see why people like certain things. So even if it's artists that I wouldn't personally listen to, or things that I'm like, like why do, well, I don't understand it. There's a market out there for everything, and the reason there's a market for everything is because there's something redeemable about 99% of music. You know what I mean? So I had to learn that like through engineering and just through like working with all these different artists. Like, oh, okay, like I didn't get it at first, but now I see why you have such a big fan base, because people like that you do this or this or this.
Yeah.
So once I learned that, then it was like, oh, like most music is actually really dope. Like I really like country music. Like people don't know that. I love country music,
I
and
didn't
it,
know that. I didn't know that. That's why I'm glad I'm doing this show because I get to find out stuff I ain't know about my friends. So I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, like '90s country music, like I love it, and a lot of it's like there's some bars in some of the records. You know what I mean? Like, uh, there's an old record where this dude says, "I'm a part of the plan. It doesn't matter what part I am." And I was like, "That's crazy." You know what I mean? Like that. Like if you said that in a rap song, people might be like, "Ooh." So there's just certain elements of every type of genre that you can take something away from, and I think that makes you a better producer because, like you said, you've hit me to be like, yo, let's do a Lizzo type record for Sync. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, let's do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because otherwise you see, and if that gets placed in a movie, then we're making money and, there's the notoriety and then there's more work that comes from that. And it's just all the domino effect. So the more versatile you can be, the better. But yeah, absolutely. When I first started, it was all hip hop and it was the real rap and, that ain't real hip hop. But once you really start doing it for a living and you start seeing like the benefits and like
Yeah.
how dope other music can be, then yeah, absolutely, it makes it so much easier to once you understand.
Do you feel like the engineer has become more respected in the studio? I've seen years of, the engineer, I feel sometimes doesn't get the credit they deserve. Do you feel like that's kind of changed a little bit over the years, or you still feel like some engineers still don't get the credit they deserve?
So it's kind of hard for me because like a lot of times like I work with a lot of like indie artists, a lot of local artists, like people on the come up. Like
Yeah.
I just work with anybody that I think is dope, you know what I mean? And if they were here working with me, like I've got the plaques, I got the Grammy nomination, I got the placements, like all this stuff that they probably don't have. So like
Yeah.
I'm kind of like the OG in the room, you know what I
Right.
mean? um so like when they come with me, like they usually come with a lot of respect, and they're excited to work with me because of the things that I've done, and maybe they heard of me because I worked with one of their favorite artists and they were like, yo, I'm going to reach out and see if I can record with them, that kind of stuff. But right before the pandemic, I was working at a big studio and we were doing like I got a record with the Migos. Like I recorded some of the record called Narcos. I don't know if you know that one,
Yeah, I
but
know that.
yeah, I recorded some of that, and I didn't get credit. They wouldn't let me get a plaque. They wouldn't like they didn't they showed no love. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it
And
just
just so people know too, with this getting credit, why it's important to get credit, because once your name is in those credits, you can get a plaque because you have to have your name in the credit somewhere,
yeah
and the RIAA, which certifies the sales and all of that of to get gold and platinum and everything that about that, they actually look all of that up and research it. When it's time to get a plaque, the people that make the plaque actually verify if you're on the record. They look at the
yeah
credit. So that's how you might see this Tribe Called Quest plaque that I have behind me. That's not just let me go buy a plaque and get my name on it. You actually
right.
have to submit information. So you not just having your name on it. Just if you would have just had your name on it, you could get that plaque. So yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and then so there's that's like the easiest way. So like they'll look up the credits and see like, oh yeah, you're on the Lil Nas X record. Like cool, you can
Right.
have the plaque, but you can like go through and have like the artist management verify it or the label could
Yeah.
verify for you. And so I had to chase down. I got a record with Tiana Taylor that I didn't get credit for, and I like went through and I was like asking people like, oh, who do you know that that knows
Yeah.
Tiana? And they were like, oh, I know her management, blah blah blah. So I had to like do all these hoops to jump through, and I got my plaques. There's one for
Yeah.
it being the number one album, and there's one for the single How You Want It going gold. And I had to like chase it down because my name wasn't
Yeah.
on those records. And yeah, so there's things that I've done that I don't got any like, and there's no real paper trail either for the most part.
Yeah.
There's like work orders at the studio. So when you leave a studio, they'll say like what time they were there, like who all
Yeah.
came in, and what songs you worked on. But sometimes the artist won't give the song titles so they don't get leaked or whatever. So
And
they'll
you
be
shouldn't
like,
have to go through all that. You shouldn't have to go
right,
through all that. That's
right.
what
So
I'm
I,
saying. Like respect the engineer. Like I don't think you need to go through all of that to get the plaque. Like just
yeah,
put his name somewhere in there, the name his or her name somewhere in there, and let
yeah.
them be able to get their just due on that.
Yeah,
So
but once you link with the artist, or like once you get like part of a team outside of like the studio, and
yeah,
you're not just the guy that clocked into work that day, you know what I mean? Then
right.
it's a lot easier and it's a lot better. I've been working with M80 and people at Fat Beats and stuff, and I've gotten credit on everything the past couple years. I've been able to get my Billboard plaques. We haven't gotten anything gold or platinum, but we get a little plaque for charting on Billboard, like this one, and I've been getting all that. So once I feel like once you're outside the studio and once you're in the team, then it's
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to get the credits and the respect that you deserve.
So working with all these artists, what do you prefer? Do you prefer that like if they come in the studio and then they're like creating right there, or you want them to come with the song done? Because you know, time time is valuable. So what do
Hey
you
man,
prefer?
if they're paying by the hour, they could do whatever they want.
Right.
you know um no, just for like the creative purposes, but sometimes people come in with like nothing. They'll just come in ready to create, and we might make the beat together, or they might pick the beat right then, and that's always fun too. And then they sit there and write their rhyme, and sometimes it's cool when it's like multiple artists too. So if two or three people come in, they all write their verse at the same time, and then they each record one after another, or like while one person's recording, they'll be writing still, and that's always pretty quick when it's more than one person. If it's one person, they come in and they might write an idea down and go record 4 bars to see what it sounds like, and it just depends on the song. Honestly, like everything just depends on each individual record. So sometimes it's really cool, and sometimes artists are really good at freestyling. Like they'll come in here and freestyle 8 bars, and we keep those first 8 bars, and then they'll two at a time or whatever. And sometimes people got to sit there, or sometimes they'll come in ready to
Yeah.
go.
Explain that process, right? I think I've seen a couple people do that. I don't give away one of my friends' process, but he
Mm-hmm.
does going in the booth.
Mm-hmm.
He said he saw Freeway do this. He goes in the booth, he'll say the first 2 to 4 bars and
Mm-hmm.
then tell you to stop the beat and then like think of the next four. And
Mm-hmm.
then that's how they're doing the song. As
Yeah.
opposed to, there's some people that are writing in their mind, and that's the question I would ask you too. So that process of watching somebody come with 2 bars back to back, how do you feel about that?
Um, Well, so there's people that come in with even less. So sometimes they'll go in the booth and they'll just mumble, blah, 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 blah. Come in the club. I come in the club. All right, that's the first bar. And then the engineer grabs it and brings it back on time to the first
Mm,
bar. So the beat drops. Boom, I come in the club. Then they freestyle the next thing the same way. Blah, 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 ma, 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 I'm with my thugs. Grab that. I come in the club. I'm with my thugs. And then they just piece together bar by bar. And it's more like just the way that they're feeling, and whatever the beats telling them to do, and it's probably no different than sitting there and writing. You know what I mean? Because they'll scrap things just the same way when you write and you cross that bar out. They'll be like, no, get rid of that second bar. I'm gonna do something different. So it's a similar process to writing. It's just in more real time, so you don't have to like have as much foresight. Sometimes I'm really impressed with rappers where they come in and they know like what the backgrounds are going to be, what their ad libs are going to be, how many
yeah,
layers they're going to do, and that like foresight is probably the most impressive thing in the studio, outside of like the bars. You know what I mean? Like when
yeah,
you can come in and have like a song in your head. These guys are doing the same thing, but rather than having foresight, they're building it in real time, so they don't need that foresight. But they're just, so they might have 4 bars done, but it'll have all the ad libs, it'll have all the backgrounds and layers and things like that, and it'll be like a cool start. Um, but yeah, I mean, the only problem I have with that kind of process is there's artists that like they'll come in and freestyle their thing 1 bar, 2 bars at a time, and then you piece it together for them, and then you see them rapping it live, and they're kind of just ad libbing their bars, and it's like, man, have you ever performed that whole thing live? Like, have you ever spit that verse in its entirety? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like that
yeah,
verse has
because
never been
they're
rapped.
using because they're using the TV track version or just the version of with the live version, and they're feeling like I don't got to say the rhyme live now
Right.
because I already have it on the track, so I'm just gonna ad lib it. So yeah, I think that's I'm not into the rhyming over the vocals. I like I don't mind if you got the background though. Like if you got the hook in there, you might have some background singing. I don't
You're
mind
right.
that. I
Right.
prefer you saying it live. So that's
Right.
kind of where I am with that. So
Yeah.
as far as are you writing on paper, computer, phone, in your head? What's that like for you?
Um, so for songs, I usually been writing in my phone lately. I have like my old notebooks still that I stumbled on them in the closet the other day. But I have
Right,
like notebooks from when I used to write on paper. But lately I've been writing in my phone. And then when I do rap battles, it's been a couple years since I've battled. But whenever I was doing battles, I would have to write it on my computer because I it's so much editing involved. You know what I mean? And like moving and
right.
tinkering with the bars. So I needed that flexibility to edit because you can only edit so fast on your phone. But yeah, for the most
Yeah.
part, I'm writing on my phone.
All right. So tell us about I get the privilege of hearing some things you're doing without people knowing, but like you worked with this working with Rakim. So Rakim is a legend. We know Rakim is a legend. I've never
Yeah,
met Rakim. So what is that like to be around one of the greatest of all time? Some people say he is the greatest of all time. What's it like working with Rakim, and what did you do with him as far as his album?
man. So M80 is the one that put the project together, and we've been working on a bunch of stuff for this almost for 4 years now, 3 4 years. And he just told me one day, he's like, "Yo, we're doing Rakim next, so like get ready for that." And I was like, I don't know what that means because Rakim ain't dropped music in 15 years. So is it a
Yeah,
single? Are we doing, is he I thought maybe he was doing like a verse on somebody else's project, but
right.
it's been a whole album, and it's executive produced by 80. So he got like some. It was kind of like song ideas from Rakim, and he kind of finished the thing. So he put and so the whole album's produced by Rakim, and so 80's the one that like found the other rappers. So he was bringing in like we got a record that Planet Asia's on, so he brought PA to the studio, and you
Yeah,
know,
Bang
uh,
is dope.
yeah, one of the man, just one of like the most pure spitters out. You know what I mean? It's still
Asia
been
Asia is one of the most prolific people I know too. As far as first of all, the rhymes are so deep and they got so much going on with the rhyming that you like. If you're a lyricist, you want to hear all that rhyming, but he's
right.
able to do like so many albums and doing it so consistently over the years. It's just like crazy.
Yeah, and we got a whole album together with Body Bag Ben, who you done some records with too.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so 80 kind of like filled in some of the blanks on these. So uh Rakim's on 3 or 4 of the joints, and then the rest of them are produced. He produced the whole thing, but there's 7 total. So the rest of them, 80 kind of filled in those blanks and brought in some artists. So I got to do a lot of recording on that. Um, Compton Menace was here at the crib the other day, you know what I mean? And then I showed my girl his scene from Straight Outta Compton. So that was pretty cool. But so once we had the project a little more complete, then Rakim kind of jumped back on board to oversee the finishing of it, and it's pretty cool because he reworked a lot of the songs, and I've been working with him and Nick Wiz, who's his engineer, and we've just all been collaborating together, and they're super dope to correspond with, and like I'll get a phone call from a number I don't know, and it's just raw, like, yo, we sending you these files today, bro, don't trip. um, I got to go to the video shoot with Rakim, Master Killer, and Corrupt. That was pretty
yeah.
crazy. I've met Corrupt before, but Master Killer from Wu Tang, like
I
iconic.
saw I saw some clips of that online, like on
Yeah,
Instagram, and I'm on Instagram watching it like on my phone, and I'm like trying to hear what the beat sound like. They didn't show like a full thing. I couldn't really hear it. So I'm up here like trying to hear the beat. I'm up here trying to hear the rhymes. I'm up here like,
right.
what is he saying? And I was like, okay, when they gonna release it so I can like fully hear it? So
Yeah,
I was
so
anticipating that.
that single's coming out on the 21st, I believe.
Okay.
Um, and the video's coming out, and then that's when they're doing like the pre-order dates for the vinyl and the 7 inch and all that stuff. So that's coming real soon. But we just been reworking things. Rakim did some scratching on there. He did the production. He did a bunch of rhymes. Um, there was stuff that like he just restructured one of the records. That's super crazy. Um, and it's been cool. And so when I got to go to the video shoot, man, I walked up to him and I was like, "Yo, Rob, I'm the one that's mixing your album." And he looked me in the face. He was, "Yo, man, you get busy." He's like, "It sounds good." And I was like,
Yo,
"All right, man, I'm done, bro. I quit. I'm done. I retire."
I mean, Rakim knows, he's been through so many different mixes, engineers, everything. So if you get a nod from Rakim, like I'm saying, you blew me away when I heard what you did too. So if Rakim's
man,
giving you that nod, of course, it makes you official. So
thank you, man. Yeah, it's when I started, like, I'm from Tucson, man. Like, there's no like big artists for, at least when I came up from Arizona. Now we got, a lot of cats that are doing really well. But when I came up, there was nobody to look up to from my city or really the state. And so like coming out here and just like getting to work with people I listened to in high school, and you know even before that, like since middle school, I was like a real hip hop head. And you know Mirror Music came out in '04. Yeah.
yeah, man, music is '04. Yep.
Yeah, so that was like end of middle school, beginning of high school for me. So like to be able to work with dudes like you 20 years later, or I saw
Yeah.
Juice when I was a kid, and I love Know the Ledge. So like to be able to work with Rod 25 years after that, you know what I mean? Like it's crazy. I just my whole thing when I moved out here was somehow I want to put just like a thumbprint on like the tapestry of rap music. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the
Yeah.
day, just have my own little spot on there. And man, like working with Rakim, it's and with you and with Wu Tang, and you know what I mean, and like even more like commercial stuff like Lil Nas X, like he changed rap a little bit too. Like it's just cool to be involved in all these different like genres within hip hop, even.
Yeah, and how are you making like keeping up like this different styles, right? You're able to keep up with the styles of rap, you like underground commercial, so you work with all of those things. How about like the audio engineering, like AI? Are you a fan of it? You against it? Are you using it? I mean, what's that?
Man, it's coming, so I'm gonna eventually have to get with it, but I'm kind of writing it out to see if it's a fad. I feel like with music, people are gonna just not really be into it. Did you see
Yeah.
that AI like rapper that they signed?
I think a long time ago. I saw a long
Yeah,
time ago an AI rapper got signed. Yeah, a long time ago for sure.
yeah, it was a few years ago, but like nobody was into it, so they just like dropped it. You know
Right.
what I mean? So I'm wondering if that's gonna just start happening with more like AI type of music, or if it's just gonna be like another way to incorporate within to what we want to do with it. You know what I mean? Rather than it like making the whole beat or mixing the whole record. Like if there's a way to like incorporate it so
Well,
it's
the new
cool.
thing that I saw that I thought was okay, here we go. They now have like companies that have deals with artists. So let's say you make a AI song with T Pain's voice, and
Hmm.
then you send it to this company that T Pain is signed to. So maybe this AI technology company. They play
Hmm.
the record for T Pain. If he likes it, he gets 50% of the record, and then the record actually comes out.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, I could send you the video. I could send you the video about it. It's like a news report video, so I can show you that. Yeah, but it's like legit. So they'll
Yeah.
have. So my thought on it is eventually they'll have all the top names. I mean, you're gonna have your Shania Twain's, Taylor Swift's, Beyonce, and everything. And the
Yeah.
average person can make a song about soap using their voice, and then
Right.
now you got the new detergent commercial with Taylor Swift voice based off somebody that
Right.
just got home. So that's where it's going. So I'll send you that video. But yeah, that's what I saw, and that's where that's going. They have firms doing that now, being a
That's
liaison
crazy.
between AI and the artist. What's crazy about it is now, if you're a well-known artist, somebody could submit thousands of songs, and you could just make the album and license it. So you're not even going in the studio no more. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
exactly. But see, like, I feel like and some of them are well done, and you would never know that I've seen the ones that like they generate from scratch, like there's no reference or there's no like human touch behind it, and they
Yeah,
don't you would never know, you know what I mean? But I think like there's a disclaimer on Facebook when you upload anything to it that you have to like
I saw
say if
you
it's
got it.
AI or not. So I'm wondering if there's going to be like a disclaimer on Spotify that's like this is an AI record, and people could choose to ignore that if they're not a fan of it. But there are some cool applications for it though. Did you hear about the DOC?
I don't know about the DOC.
You know how his voice is like gone? That's why he
Oh,
hasn't made
oh
any
yeah,
records.
yeah, yeah. The DOC, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. The
Yeah.
DOC. I thought it was an app, but
Oh
yeah, I
no no
know.
no.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, I know the DOC for
yeah.
sure. With
DOC the
having
artist.
accident, crutch vocals. He's one of the best writers and lyricists. He's written so
Right.
many, yeah, songwriters for sure.
He's working on an album right now where they're going to use AI to use his original voice before the accident.
Dope.
Yeah, and that's like a great application for it.
Yeah, I think that's dope.
Yeah,
So yeah,
but
I got this question I'd like to do. Always ask like to ask this top five. So when you're in the studio, what's like the equipment or plugins or things you need, the essentials that you need for the studio? So it's just like your top five essentials. It could be equipment, whatever.
yeah. So, man, I got this. Everybody asked me the interface. I've been using the SSL 2 Plus. It's
Okay.
pretty inexpensive. There's interfaces that are like thousands, and this one's a few $100, like $300. And I've used it on everybody: Compton Menace, Gangsta Boo, Ferg. You know what I mean? I bring it everywhere I go. So the SSL 2 Plus is my interface.
Okay.
The Pro Q3, the the EQ Fab Filter, must have. If I go to a studio that doesn't have it, I feel like I'm working with one hand tied behind my back. SSL channel, that's a must have. What's that, number three? Let's see, what mic? Neumann mics, the 87. I use the 103. Um, and MIDI controller, something to make beats on.
Yeah.
If I got all
So
that, I'm ready to go.
what about like I know this is another question late after what we've been on, but I wanted to know about what's your preference as far as laying down the vocals on the track? Because some people like the vocals like below the track, and then some people like theirs above. I like mine's kind of a little bit above, like
Hmm.
like right above, because I feel like my voice isn't that, I guess, like rough or like loud, I should say.
Yeah,
So what's your preference? Because some engineers like to just you know
right. I like to have, like, for me personally, when I'm doing the mix, I like to just have it like blended right with it, where it's just on a little bit louder than everything else, so you can really catch all everything the artist is saying, he or she is saying. But there's my thing always goes back to, it's about the song itself. You know what I mean? Like what sounds best for this record. But there's dudes like when I mix Cannabis's last like 3 or 4 albums, and what I would do is I'd have the mix exactly where I wanted it, perfect, and then I would grab his vocals and bring him up 3 dB because he wants to be on top. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So, and that seemed to work, and that seemed to like bridge the gap between my style and his style. And but I'm happy with that. You know what I mean? As long as the client is happy, as long as the artist
yeah,
is happy, and it's gonna sound good. And there's some people that want, it's a lot of like pop singers kind of want their stuff like almost under the beat, where it feels more like an instrument than like versus rap where you're on top, because the rhyme is so much more important, like the lyrics. Um, but me personally, I like to just have like a nice blend where it just sits right in there,
yeah.
and but just whatever the artist needs, whatever the song calls for, that kind of stuff. Because there's some artists where the track three, the vocals are the main part, and track four, it's more about the feeling of the song and the vibe it gives you. And so those might, it might be a huge discrepancy between those, and it just whatever works.
So yo, Andy, I mean, Vodka Gravas, I know, man. So Vodka Gravas,
Yeah,
Andy
man.
Vodka Gravas Rodriguez. I like to say both, so that way when people see a name and a certain credit, they kind of know the duality of it. But
Right.
he goes by the name Vodka Gravas and credits phenomenal producer, engineer, and everything, man. I'd like to thank you for joining me on the show, and tell everybody what your handles and everything on social media.
Man, well, first I want to say thank you for having me. I appreciate it, man.
It's a no-brainer, man. No problem.
Yeah, so my Instagram is Jordan River Recordings. That's like the easiest place to find me.
Yeah.
That's my like studio and like the team of engineers. Like we got a few people that we just call on for, if I'm not available, one of them will help you out, or and that's the logo right there on Words' hat. Super
Right here.
dope. Yeah, you can hit me on Jordan River Recordings Instagram to order. We got hats, hoodies, all that good stuff. Um, Twitter or X is just Vodka Gravas. I think that's all the social media I have. Facebook is Andy Vodka Gravas Rodriguez. Um, yeah, hit me anywhere if you need beats or mixing, mastering. I do like feedback too. So if you need some help with your records and can't figure out what the mix is missing, I can help you out with that too. So, I'm around.
Dope, dope. So once again, another episode of What Words Are Worth. And I ask you, what are your words worth? Peace.
Okay, so quick story. So 2004, 2005, something like that, I did my first Mike Fights audition, and Wordsworth was the headlining, act for the event, and I had already been a big fan of this album. It's called Mirror Music. If you've never heard of it, it's an amazing album. I could recite this thing damn near top to bottom. So I met Wordsworth, and because I already owned that one, I didn't purchase that album there. I opted to get his mixtape, People Without Turntables, and it says, "Thanks for the support, Wordsworth." Pretty cool. Been had this for almost like 20 years at this point. And then, fast forward to now, I recently got this in the mail. This is the vinyl and CD for The Fragility of Life. It's the album I mixed and mastered for Wordsworth. And so, like I said, we're going from Thanks for the Support to the album Wouldn't Be a Classic Without You. So it feels good to be full circle. He also called me one of the best producer, MC, engineers in the world. And he says it's his best album to date. If you've heard it, let me know if you agree. Right there. Mixed by Andy Vodka Gravas Rodriguez for Jordan River Recording. Beautiful.
Sign up now at elevate.miami.edu for my course, Organized Rhyme. Looking at the word legacy, while involving some wordplay, I'll use the first syllable to build upon. We'll use the first syllable, leg. For the second syllable, we'll use an. And for the third syllable, we'll use the word knee. So now we have leg and knee. Can we use it in context with legacy? Let's just see. Wordsworth Productions with a S.com for merch. I got 2 books available right now, What Words Are Worth Volume 1, and I also have a children's book called Socks. Age range from 12 to 15, so it's kind of like the middle school and high school age range, but adults can read it as well. Shout out to our sponsor, the Wizker. If you're into skincare, the Wizker will help prevent razor bumps and make sure you got smooth skin all around. Make sure you order it on Amazon, the Wizker. Make sure you check out wordsworthproductions.com. There you can book me if you want to book me for shows, consultations, panels, and things of that nature. And also, it'll give all the upcoming shows that I'll be attending or performing at or appearing at as well. Wordsworthproductions.com. We write plays, books, movies, anything that deals with writing and creativity. Contact us.